Good morning. We're going to go ahead and get this press conference started. First of all, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for joining us this morning. The reason why we're here is to talk about the increase in gun violence we've seen within our community. In response to this increase in gun violence, Street Crime Task Force has been created with membership from the Champaign Police Department, the Urbana Police Department, University of Illinois Police Department, as well as the Champaign County Sheriff's Office. I would like to introduce everyone here at the podium with me, starting with Chief Christian from the University of Illinois Police Department, Chief Pat Conley with the Urbana Police Department, Deputy Chief Joe Gallo with the Champaign Police Department, Shane Cook, Captain Shane Cook with the Champaign County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Dan Walsh with the Champaign County Sheriff's Office, Deputy Chief Alan Jones with the Champaign County Sheriff's Office, as well as Chief Farber with the Rantoul Police Department. At this point in time, I'm going to turn things over to Chief Conley from the Urbana Police Department.
Good. Thank you, Anthony. Good morning, everybody. In early February 2015, area police departments began addressing a significant increase in the number of shooting-related events. In fact, in a 4-day period, Urbana Police and the Champaign County Sheriff's Office responded to 7 separate shooting events, all appearing to be somewhat similar. Unfortunately for all involved, this series of shootings was especially alarming because a total of 68 bullets were fired into 7 different houses, and inside those homes were 28 community members. Even more alarming was the fact that 17 of those 28 were children. This series of events was unusual for our community from a historical perspective, but as with other violent crime sprees, we quickly realized that we needed to work as a team to confront the issues. Sheriff Dan Walsh and I called together the neighbors living in that area and tried to ease their anxiety. Extra patrols were assigned to that area, and investigators worked collectively to try to figure out who was responsible. We also collaborated with the neighbors to develop a communication network that enabled them to look out for one another. Our goal was to strengthen the neighborhood and to identify those responsible for the shootings. We all know Wright Street does not separate the problems the cities of Champaign and Urbana face. When something happens in Champaign, it impacts Urbana and the entire law enforcement community. The same holds true when there's an event in the county or at University of Illinois property. Early in the process, we began to pool our intelligence data, but quickly we saw the shootings continued throughout Champaign-Urbana and into the county. In fact, since February 16th, 43 additional shooting investigations have been opened. Our purpose of gathering today is to let everyone know that this activity has got to stop. The community is calling for us to address this epidemic, and collectively we felt that a team approach would be the best way to address that. Our hope is that we can strategically focus our undivided attention on this community problem and put a stop to this violence. With that being said, I'd like to introduce Sheriff Dan Walsh, who can tell us a bit about the task force and how it's going to be structured.
Thank you, Chief. Good morning. Over the months these shootings have occurred, as described by Chief Conley, the police have been developing some good information about who's involved. This has been very challenging since many of the victims and witnesses have refused to cooperate. Some out of fear, and some because they intend to seek retribution on their own. Despite this, Champaign detectives developed information on a suspect who they thought might be one of the next victims. They went to him, they warned him, they asked him to cooperate, he refused. He was shot within a few days. My point is that we're not going to stop everything that moves in a given area. We intend to be as surgical and precise as information allows us to be. We do have some individuals and their associates that we will be stopping when we have legal justification. We are hoping to take them and their guns off the street. These shooters are dangerous people, and these will be dangerous encounters for our deputies and our officers. They have guns, and some are convicted felons. They shoot at each other and even at each other's family homes. We believe they may shoot at the police if they feel they are facing arrest. Our officers will protect themselves using their firearms if necessary. Officers will be respecting citizens' constitutional rights, but they will also be very safety conscious. Like every other worker, at the end of the day, the deputies and officers want to come home uninjured to their families. They may be initiating felony stops on some of these individuals and their associates. In doing this, the police may have their guns drawn. We ask that all citizens who may be involved in the stop by the police, including the individuals who are shooting at each other, Please comply with the orders the officers give you. If they tell you to keep your hands where they can see them, do so. If they tell you to get out of a car and stand there, do so. These are dangerous situations. Tensions will be high. We don't want anybody getting hurt, including our deputies and officers, and also the shooters. To the shooters, we want to take your guns and we want to put you in prison if appropriate, but we don't want you or anybody to get hurt in the process. If stopped, comply with orders. If you feel you are wronged and think your rights are violated, do what you're told at the time. Make a complaint to the police agency later. All of our agencies are committed to ensuring proper law enforcement for all citizens. If you're not happy with the result from the agency, go see a lawyer and explore your other lawful options. But at the time, do as you're instructed by the officer. We don't want anybody getting hurt. We ask all members of our community to come forward with information on these shootings, to give us any information you have. If you want to remain anonymous, call Crime Stoppers. Maybe you can even get a cash reward out of it. To those of you who are friends or related to the shooters, to you moms and dads, aunts and uncles, older brothers and sisters, insist they get rid of the guns. We don't want any more people injured or killed, including those involved in the shootings themselves. We certainly don't want another innocent bystander murdered like Desiree DeArmond Austin. She was the 20-year-old mother of two who was murdered when she got caught in a crossfire between two shooters on July 4th, 2012. These people are shooting at the homes of their enemies while these homes are occupied by family members and children. We have to stop these shootings. It's only a matter of time before some innocent child gets shot. At this point, I'd like to introduce Chief Jeff Christensen, who will discuss some other matters concerning this.
Thanks, Sheriff. I'd like to begin by recognizing the exceptional level of cooperation amongst the agencies we have here today. But beyond that, it's cooperation countywide, all the other towns in Champaign County. It's our state and federal partners that assist us with local issues. We have a very long history of working together, the agencies here countywide. Major investigations, special events, and challenges such as this recent violence, why we are here today. We're expanding our resources to strategically address the current situation, as was explained. Keeping our community safe is a priority. Keeping our officers safe is also a priority and a concern, as the sheriff mentioned. We are dealing with gun violence. Even though we're expending these resources, our most important resource is our community. Share information, please, as noted. Get involved from the county or the Champaign County Coalition to neighborhood groups or whatever. We need a societal community response to this, not just strictly a law enforcement response. Assist us in solving these problems. The most important resource and the most important thing to us is our community. And this community is Champaign County. It has no borders. It doesn't matter if it's Champaign, Urbana, Rantoul, Mahomet, U of I, Savoy, or any other entity within our county. This is not one particular community here or there. We work together, and these are issues that are all our concerns, and we need your assistance. And with that, I will turn the podium over to Chief Cobb to field questions.
All right, before we open up the questions, I do want to take the opportunity again to thank the gentleman behind me. I especially want to thank Chief Paul Farber from the Rantoul Police Department. He recently just decided he wanted to join this task force because Rantoul is not immune from this issue. They've had 3 shootings over the last 2 weeks. They're equally as concerned about this issue, and they're going to be a vital partner within this organization as well. So we want to thank him for reaching out to us and joining us at this conference today. At this point in time, I'd like to open it up for questions from you all.
How many on the task force, and are they high-ranking officers, low-ranking officers?
Right now, there are 8 individuals been identified to be on the task force. Most of them are officers or sergeants on the most part, but there's supervision coming from all of our command staff. We have a representative that's working all the way through our deputy chief's office to make sure we keep the task force working and pointing in the right direction.
It was mentioned that these shooters are shooting into the houses of their enemies. Is there a reason to believe that there's gang affiliation going on now?
There is a gang presence in our community, always has been to some degree. Some of the things that we're seeing are associated with what we call neighborhood cliques to some degree. We do not have that hardened gang presence as you once saw in the 90s, in the early 2000s, where there were actually gangs that were seen on the national front. but we do have, by the definition of gang, yes, a presence in individuals who are associating together commit criminal acts. Other questions?
What will happen to the investigators that are already working on all these cases, like the street crime unit?
Yeah. Pretty much what's going to happen is this unit is a group of individuals coming together to work this problem. They're going after individuals, individuals that have been identified to be associated with this violence. They're looking to hold those individuals accountable. If crimes start to occur and these guys are doing things, the primary jurisdiction where that crime occurred at is going to investigate it. This team is going to supplement them and assist them, but they're going to stay focused on the individuals. We want to be surgical. We want them to be strategic, but we really want to make it challenging for the individuals associated with gun violence to continue to commit these acts. Yes, ma'am.
What about location-wise? How are you guys going to spread out based on location? Are there going to be targeted areas you go to first?
They're going to where the individuals are associated at. We're going to the areas where the problems have been occurring at. These individuals choose to shift out of some of these areas and move to other areas. We're going to go there with them. Our focus is to make it difficult for them to commit these crimes in our community. Yes, sir.
Why is September 7th chosen as the end date?
Good time for us to assess it. We're actually getting through the Labor Day holiday, traditionally end of summer. We want to use this as a time for us to make sure we evaluate. So we say that's what we're going to go through. Could it be extended longer? Quite possibly. Could this go on indefinitely? Anything is possible, but we wanted to put a set of dates where we can measure our success and look at what we're doing, see how things are happening, and make sure we're pleased with the results we're getting, or see if there's better approaches to take.
Chief, how is this going to be funded?
Right now, the funding is coming from all our agencies. We've all committed to put the resources in from our agency, and we'll cover the funding as far as paying for our employees who are involved with this group.
Can you talk a little more about the traffic component that's mentioned in the release here? Are you going to be out looking for vehicles that are known to be driven by these criminals, or how is that going to work?
Recognize it's a proactive unit, and as they're proactively dealing with problems, if there's legal justification where we can intercept these individuals, we will. A lot of times traffic is a good way to have contact with some of these individuals. As we're developing intelligence, as we're getting more information, there's a lot of things that we have on our tool belt that we'll choose to use. The reason why we use traffic to express that, to make the public aware, I'd have traffic stops. We know that information is out there. We know people are looking at those things. But as we're making some of these surgical stops, that's going to affect some of those numbers. We've had that conversation with our community coalition to make them aware. We're sensitive this may affect some of our numbers. So we want the public to be aware of it. So as we're looking through it, you all know we initiated this starting in June 2nd, and we're looking for it to go through September. So you're going to see spikes during those couple of months.
So if you see a vehicle that you know to be driven by, a shooter or an alleged shooter or a criminal, is that enough to initiate a stop, or do they have to run a red light first or do something to that effect?
Anytime we stop anyone, it's going to be a violation of a law. It's going to be a totality of circumstances going to lead to whether a vehicle gets stopped or not. But there are individuals that we have known through various investigations that we know are associated with these type of crimes. All citizens are not engaged in this. It's a very, very small percentage of individuals that are coming to our attention, that are known to be around this, who are associated with these type of violence. I think you and most of our citizens will agree we don't want this type of activity in our community. We want it to stop. These individuals can stop today if they choose to. They can get rid of their guns. They can decide I'm not going to do this anymore, and they'll never have to be bothered with this at all. But if they choose to continue down the path that they're currently on, there are going to be problems, and we're going to hold them accountable for those actions. Yes, ma'am.
What access will the public have to this task force? Will you guys be holding some more community dialogue meetings like you have in the recent month, or will it just be talking to you?
You'll be talking with us. This task force is going to be tasked to go out and work. We want them busy out there dealing with issues. I can't say they won't be accessible to the public. It all depends on the situation we're going to look at, but a lot of times as information comes forward, it's going to come from our command staff and the individuals here or other people within our staff. Yes, sir.
The press release focuses on offenders and their associates. Could we explain the strategy for the involvement with the associates?
The associates a lot of times are ones who are part of the issue, part of the problem. They're assisting, aiding in a lot of circumstances. So a lot of times we have to go at the group as a whole to address the problem.
Will this be the full-time concentration of the officers involved?
Yes.
So will that affect other things? Will other officers have to work overtime or anything like that to help make up for it?
Speaking for Champaign, there will have some effect for us, but other agencies, they'll let you speak for yourselves.
I think anytime there's a shooting, we end up with overtime regardless. So what we're trying to do is pool all of our intelligence information, get all of our folks on the same page, and hopefully that'll reduce the amount of overtime. One more, maybe?
One more quick question.
Do you ever envision a scenario where these folks are settling their differences in a different way, like fighting instead of shooting, or is that even a logical step?
I'm not a sociologist, so it's challenging for me to answer that. Would we prefer they rather ball their fists up and fight opposed to shoot each other? I think the answer collectively probably would be yes. We would love for people who have disagreements to find peaceful ways to work through their disagreement. That's what we want to do as a society, but unfortunately, that's not happening. So with that said, I'd like to thank you all for coming out. There's handouts at the back of the room if you didn't grab one, but it gives you a little bit more information as far as the task force. And again, thank you for joining us today.
Good job there, Chief.